Hey, it's David Barry, and I'm here with one of my clients who's actually became a very close friend of mine. And it's just really cool that I have finally, Robin, I finally finished it. I completed my Freedom from Rent school. I've been talking to you about this for about a year now, and I'm finally done. And you, my friend, are my first guest on my Freedom from Rent school. This is episode one. And so basically, I created this school community just for people like you that are renters that want to become homeowners. And I'm super fired up. We're in the beginning of 2025, and let's dive into this. So, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? And I understand you're still renting, but you really want to be a homeowner. Is that right?
Right. Been renting for decades, all of
Oh,
my adult life. And I tell you, I think I've moved at least 20 times in my life, but I'm excited because this is probably the first real opportunity that I could possibly have. So I'm excited. I'm
yeah.
excited to absorb all the knowledge that you're ready to disperse.
Well, Robin, it's interesting, and I think that for our listeners out there, I think that that maybe some of this will resonate with them, and that's what my goal is. But you just came across a program, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, where you actually got excited because you saw an opportunity that you could become a homeowner, and this is something you've been wanting for a long time. And
Right.
and the unfortunate part is I feel like a lot of people in America, they have gotten in this rut where they believe that the only thing they can do is rent. There are no other
Mhm.
options.
Mhm.
And so that American dream that you and I, we're a little bit older. We don't have to disclose our age, but we
Mhm.
know that the American dream has been kind of stagnant. And there's a lot of people
Mhm.
now believe that the American dream is just to try to, find something that you can barely live with, that you're not completely crazy about, but at least it's not that expensive and you don't own
Mhm.
it. And
Right.
I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of new programs. And by having a licensed lender and a licensed realtor, you can dispel that belief that you're supposed to rent and that you can actually start owning your own home. So, Robin, as I mentioned earlier, she was one of my clients a while back. I helped her find a rental. And even on that first day we met, she had mentioned that she wanted to be a homeowner. So basically, we're going to be covering kind of really what I really want to try to convey what this community is all about and what we try to accomplish in the community. And remember, guys, this is a community of like-minded people like Robin that want to own their own home. So why don't you go ahead and get started, Robin? I know I'm talking a lot, but maybe you could share some of your experiences that you've encountered as a renter that maybe is not so great.
Yeah, okay, I'll start with the last townhouse that you found for me. Like I remember the property manager walking through the unit telling me, don't put any nails in the walls. Don't, so in other words, don't hang up any pictures because he said you'd never be able to match the paint. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm not doing that. I have lots of pictures to hang on the walls, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have my brother patch any little tiny holes there might be.
Yeah.
And I did that, and I made that place my home. But that was the first opposition that I felt like, oh my God, I can't even decorate this place the way I want to decorate it. And David, you've been to that place, so you know how much I like to decorate.
I know, right?
Yeah, but anyway, I overcame that, that was okay. But, just the fact that it wasn't mine, I was 100% always conscious that this space was not mine. And so I took really good care of that place.
I know you did. And it's
And
funny because my next question that I have on my list for you is please explain what freedom from rent means to you. And you just said it. That's one
right,
of the greatest gifts that you can get as a homeowner is you have
right,
freedom to make the
right.
changes and to do what you want. Uh,
Right. And you're limited. You're very limited when you're renting. So that's probably one of my top priorities in wanting to do this because that way I can do what I want. Like you said, like for
yeah,
instance,
100%.
the kitchen was fairly large and I was like, why didn't they put an island in here? You know what I'm saying? Little
Yeah.
things like that that you would want to do if it was your own. You
Well,
understand?
and the other thing is and not to put a bad mark on Las Vegas real estate, but some of the property managers, I mean, my goodness, there's some of the things, and I don't really want to get into that too much, but they make you sign a year lease. I hear horror stories that you never hear from the property manager after you sign the lease. They just want to take your
Mm,
money. You don't have stability. You have an inability to build equity. And I hate that for my renter clients because when I
mhm,
have a buyer client and then 3 years later they say we want to sell, or 5 years later, 7 years later, and they're
mhm,
getting a $75,000 check from the title company. I mean, that is such a bigger, it's such a beautiful thing. And they're so
mhm,
excited about that. But the problem is that people think that they're supposed to try to save money and pay rent and never build equity for themselves. So my tagline, Robin, I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times, is stop paying your landlord's mortgage and
yeah,
start building your own equity. I want to see
right.
my clients leave a house and get a big
Mhm,
check. I mean, that would be really,
mhm.
really nice. So,
Yeah.
but
Mhm,
let's dive into the next category, which is why does home ownership matter? Um,
mhm,
and I just touched on that. So building equity, maybe you have an experience in your life where maybe your mom or your
mhm,
brother or somebody,
mhm.
have you actually seen that actually happen in real life where they bought the house for X?
100%.
Well, tell me about
100%.
it. Tell me about it.
Well, I mean, this house, I grew up in this house, and my mom purchased it in 1963 for 22,000, and it's
Oh,
worth
wow.
over nine right now.
Over
So that's a
9,000?
huge, huh?
Over 9,000?
900,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the
900,000.
house is older, but so
That's
I've watched the equity grow in this particular house. The townhouse that I was living in for 2 years, I watched the equity because I they would send me
right.
emails about the
Yeah.
status on the
Mhm.
house. Zillow would send that, and I watched the townhouse I was living in build equity, and I was like, wow, look how quickly their investment has turned positive, and I'm
Right.
paying the mortgage for them.
You're
You
paying
know?
the landlord's mortgage.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. So it's clear as day to me.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
that's
clear as
good.
day. It's
And
clear as day.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to see, your friends and family getting those checks. I would rather see you get the check. And,
Mhm,
and we both are
mhm,
parents. We both
mhm,
want to leave a legacy behind to our kids.
mhm,
And real
mhm.
estate is one of the greatest ways to do that. Now,
Absolutely.
the next point that I wanted to make is that one of the biggest misconceptions about buying a home is that you need to have a massive down payment. There are no money down programs all over that the government will help you to buy a home, but you just came across something that you were super excited. Can you share what you found out about a down payment
Um, are you
with your
talking
son?
about the
With your,
military?
yeah, with your
Oh,
son.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So my son, he just joined the Navy, and of course, they have the GI Bill, and he told me just a few days ago that he added me on to his benefits. I said, "What do you mean your benefits?" In my head, I was thinking medical, like, what?
Yeah,
He said,
right.
all of my benefits. I said, "Oh, you mean the GI Bill?" He said, "Yes." I was like, "Oh my God." I was so excited. I said, "This is my opportunity." On the downside, I did some research. You have to serve 1,095 days to get the full GI benefit. And that's okay. That's exactly 3 years. But
Yeah,
I learned. So
yeah.
that's a good thing. I'm equipped with knowledge. Knowledge
So
is
our
power.
So to our veterans out there, yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
a great point. And people that have served, I have heard stories where people didn't know that they even qualified. They thought that they had to serve for 20 years and that
Oh
they didn't
no, it's a
qualify.
thousand ninety-five days.
Okay,
That's exactly
1,095.
3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and then
1095.
and so they don't have to put in a down payment and they can get into
Mhm.
a house with little or no money down. And by the way, guys, I want to make sure that everyone's clear. In this day and age, if you were to buy a house, it is going to cost you more. So
Yeah.
a lot of times people have this mentality of, you know what, I think I'm gonna rent for now and I'll wait. And so they don't get any of the benefits or the upside. And Robin, you just shared a very important fact, and that is that if she had bought the condo instead of rented it, she would have had about $40,000 in equity. So she would have
Absolutely.
left. But let's just take that example. That's a perfect example. She might have had to pay $500 more per month. You were there for how long?
2 years.
So Robin's there for 2 years. She pays an extra $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year times 2 years is $12,000, but she's getting $40,000. So instead of getting a check for 28,000 going to Robin, that $28,000 check went to her landlord. And this
Mm-hmm.
is exactly what I'm talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. Sometimes you have to be a little bit uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
get the
Mm-hmm.
upside,
Mm-hmm.
if anybody would have told Robin, listen, and maybe it was my fault, but if I would have said, Robin, it's going to cost you $500 more per month, but I can get you a place that's just as nice or better than this one, and you're going to own it. And in 2 years, you're going to get a check for 28,000 when you decide to move up or move out or go back with your family or whatever it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, everything is relevant. And
Right.
and that's why having a licensed lender and a licensed realtor is so important because
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to take our advice. You don't have to do anything. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to arm you with all the facts. And that's why I'm so excited about this school community because that's what we do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so important that you have a very professional realtor and a professional lender that can go over these things with you. Now,
Absolutely.
so one of the things that's really important in the transition, and Robin and I have talked a little bit about that, is we've talked about the basics. So I want to dive into the basics a little bit. And what do you think, Robin, is one of the most important factors on being able to get a pre-qualification for a loan?
I would think know your credit score.
That's
Know
it. Boom. You
your,
just got it. Credit score. That's it.
well,
You,
I've been knowing that forever. I've always,
yeah.
yeah.
And of course, Robin, you have to not only know your credit score, but you need to know what your finances are.
Right,
And
that was the next thing I was gonna say.
did you read my notes?
No, that's
I,
common sense. I'm
yeah,
just
I
saying.
know, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that, okay, well, my credit's not that good. I'm out.
Mhm.
But we have in Freedom from Rent School, we actually have a program where we can actually hook you up with a credit repair agency and we can have you start working on your credit. So this is important. The other step would be to consult with a real estate professional like myself to try to
Mhm.
get the groundwork going.
Mhm.
Robin, I know she knows this because she's a good friend of mine. I taught martial arts for 30 years and now I just solely
Mhm.
focus on real estate. But people would come into my school and they'd say, I want to be a black belt. I said, when do you want to be a black belt? And they'd say, well, hopefully like within the next couple of months. And I'd say, oh my gosh, no, it takes years.
Yeah.
So the big things in life that we want, they have to have a plan. There has to be a step. So
Right.
the next step is connecting you with a lender. I have many great lenders that I can connect you with, and you get a pre-approval. And now you know exactly what you can afford. So the lender is
Mhm.
going to say, I know you really like that $500,000 house, but we need to keep you in around the $350,000 range.
Right.
And excuse me, we can start exploring properties and start talking about what you would be able to qualify for. And that's really a nice thing too. That's a great feature of having a realtor is you can start seeing that if I just do this step, this step, this step, and this step, I can be in that $350,000 home or that $400,000 home.
Mhm.
So my next question would be, do you have any burning questions about home ownership? Like what is the one thing that has held you back or one question that you have?
Well, I was thinking about as far as the credit goes, like
Hmm.
without disclosing too much personal, like, when the lenders, when they, scrub your credit, like, how far back do they go? What disqualifies you? Like, let's say, for instance, let's say you have money for a
Hmm.
down payment
Yeah.
and your credit score is nominal, let's say let's say between 620 and 700, that
Okay.
range,
Okay.
anywhere between there. You know, does something negative on your credit score prevent you from being approved? And, like, I understand, if you're not perfect, like, do they just reject you and say, okay, fix this, and come back? Like, how does that work?
Robin, that's such a great question. The real answer to your question is that we have people that have gotten approved at a 550 credit score. There's a
Okay.
lot of stipulations in that. They might say you have
Mm-hmm.
to put 15% down as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
3.5. But
Mm-hmm.
and these are pretty much lender questions, but as an overview, I can actually answer that. And
Mm-hmm.
credit is tied directly into the type of programs and the type of rates that a lender can get you. So,
Right.
but I try to stay in my lane. I try to stay in the real estate lane, finding you the house, finding you the amenities that you want, the neighborhood you want, and the price points that you want. But the lenders are the ones that are going to take a look at your financial snapshot. The one thing I will tell you, let's just say that if somebody had a bankruptcy. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that it's at least 2 years you can't even apply to get a pre-approval. And again,
Oh.
that's a lender question anyway. But if they have a bankruptcy, sometimes people think it's 7 years
Oh.
and they don't know. So
Mm.
one of the greatest gifts that you can have is by having and someone here, like in our community, like me and like my lender, and being able to ask those questions. But I
Okay.
will tell you that even if, I mean, I've seen people that have had a 400 credit score work on their credit for 2 years and become a homeowner. So
Okay.
it's not anyone that's listening or watching. I don't want you to ever rule yourself out and say, you know what, I could never own a home. Everything can be
Yeah.
fixed.
Yeah,
So,
that has always been my concern because I did used to think you need to have a very high score. I mean, I've always been in the 600s, and
yeah,
I didn't feel like that was enough to qualify.
no, it
I felt
definitely
like
is.
you needed to be in the sevens.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I just want to just briefly talk about some of the hidden costs in owning a house. There's HOA
Mm-hmm.
fees, there's property taxes, and there's maintenance. Now, when you're a renter, those things are taken care of by your landlord. So
Mm-hmm.
you do get some additional responsibilities, some additional expenses. So there
Mm-hmm.
is a little bit of a downside, but I always want to get that upside when I sell the house and get that big check. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next topic that I had was how does my credit score impact the interest rate and mortgage options?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the higher the credit, the better the options are. The
Right.
next, we're going to talk about, let's see, we're going to talk about common obstacles and how to overcome them. So, what are some of the savings? What are some strategies that you can have for savings?
Well, I
Because,
can tell you,
well,
I
I
can,
just want to say before you answer that, um, there is no such thing as a no money down program, and you can just walk into a house.
right.
What I will tell you is I've had clients that have actually gotten a house for less money than it would have been for first and last security and the move-in cost on a rental. I have
Mm-hmm.
personally done that many, many times, but I don't want anyone thinking when you hear no money, oh, I don't have to come up with a dollar. It's going to cost some money. So let's talk about savings and what kind of advice do you have for savings?
To be honest with you, what I've learned is, or what I've done is for the past year, I upped the percentage to my 401k because I don't even see it. Do you
Good.
understand?
Yeah.
So that's my savings.
Uh-huh.
Because if I receive all my money on my check, I'm gonna spend it.
I understood.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So that's been key for me is to uh bump it up to 20%. And that's where it is.
Good
That's
for
where it is.
you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm proud of you. That's really good. And
If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have it.
you know, taking action gets you results. Taking no action gets you no results.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean that's beautiful. And I just want to touch on the fact that there's typically three types of different loans. And again, I'm not a lender, but there's FHA, there's VA,
Hmm.
and there's conventional loans. The VA we touched on a little bit. That's a no money down
Hmm.
program. It's for people that have served in the military.
Hmm.
And the cool part is that if you guys will have questions about lenders, we can hook you up with a professional lender. All right, we're going to keep moving on. We're getting through this. This is so much fun. I'm glad that I'm actually able to talk to you. And you're one. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, Robin, but you were one of my favorite clients. So I don't know
Thank
if
you.
I'm supposed to say
That's
that.
why you'll always be my favorite realtor.
So, setting realistic goals and timelines, emphasize the patience in the process. Finding the right home at the right price can take time. So, once you get this budget and your lender says, I can qualify you all the way up to 380,000, it's important that you understand that it might take us a little bit of time, but we're going to get there. And, we're not going to be looking at $450,000 homes, but we may need to have a little bit of patience. And with
Mhm.
the right amount of patience, I'm able to negotiate better. And my job is, I have a fiduciary relationship with you and I represent you. Your interest is, what I am completely committed to, and I'm going to get you the best price. And I feel like that's one of my best top skills. And that's one thing, because a lot of the renters that I work with, and I work with a lot, Robin, I don't know if I told you this or not, but I actually helped 80 people get into a rental last year. I put 80
Oh,
different families into a rental. Uh,
that's a lot.
there's very, very few realtors that can say that. And I'm not bragging about it, but I just love putting people in a home. I also did 10 home sales as well last year, but I want my goal is to really just help put people in a home, whether it's renting or buying. But my new passion is freedom from rent. So let's move on.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I said, do you have to take, it takes a little bit of time. And I've had some clients that I've actually had clients call me up and they say, David, we want to rent. We're not ready to buy yet. We're not quite there yet. But then after I talk to them and I hear what they say maybe, I make 125,000 a year. I've got a 700 credit score. I don't think it's that good. And I've been at my job for 5 years. I'm like, well, why aren't you buying? So at least have that conversation. That way, you know. So let's talk about practical next steps. So one of the things that you can do in the beginning is pull and review your credit report. And you can do
Yeah,
that
I'm on
right now.
Experian,
Yeah.
so I watch it all the time. I know exactly what my score is at all times.
And my next tip is build a relationship with a knowledgeable real estate agent.
And I've done that.
Yeah. And then research neighborhood property values and trends. Now,
And I do that
yeah, Robin shared that she was a renter in a community, but she was keeping track of what was going on with the property.
100%. Yeah.
And then the realtor can give you suggested books, websites, and tools. Uh,
Hmm.
and we're going to continue to have, I'm going to be doing this every week. And I think we're probably getting a little bit over on time. So I want to move through my topics, but I want to keep them
Hmm.
around 30 minutes. Uh,
Hmm.
the next thing it says on my notes is closing remarks. Um, so let's kind of recap, Robin. What did we learn and what did we talk about? And what kind of hope do our renters in our community have for becoming homeowners? What were the takeaways?
Well, I think anybody who has the desire and passion to be a homeowner, they actually can do that. And once you realize that you've been paying your landlord's mortgage, a light bulb will go out up and say, wait a minute, I can do this for myself. And
Mhm.
I've always known that, but it's just more prevalent now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you have any final thoughts on what this experience was like for you? Because, and by the way, I want to let our community know that I don't coach Robin. We don't have an hour long session and I say, okay, this is what I'm going to ask you. I like to do it as organic as possible.
Hmm.
I like to keep
Hmm.
my notes because I want to make sure I ask the right questions.
Hmm.
But we don't practice this. And this is one take and I'm going to put it out there and hopefully you're going to gain some information. But do you have any
Hmm.
final thoughts that you could share with the audience about this experience and what we have to look forward to in the next year?
Like I said, I think knowledge is power. Some people say knowledge is king, but knowledge is power. So again, when you're coupled with the right real estate agent, and then he's coupled with the right lender, and then you're doing your due diligence of understanding your credit score, understanding your finances, and understanding what the market has to offer. I think with those three things combined, it's just a win-win situation.
Yeah. Well, that's such great advice. And I really appreciate you coming on here as one of my renters that wants to become a homeowner. I'm just trying to help people. I want to give, and I'm going to continue to give this year. And hopefully I
Hmm.
give you tools,
Hmm.
to everyone in our community that can help you get on the right path to becoming a homeowner, because it really does make a difference. And by the way, this is January 2025 when we did this first podcast. Throughout the year, I'm going to be having events. I'm going to be having lenders on as guests. I'm going to be having other renters come on and share their frustrations. And we're just going
Hmm.
to try to educate and give as much information to give you the best chance to have success, because
Yes.
you really can be a homeowner and you really can start building your own wealth. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye bye.